welcome to episode number 5 of the 212 and the 305 podcast. Our first time ever recording from New York City. And it wasn't a hard decision to decide who I was going to invite. My longtime friend from Great Neck, New York, Danny Nassi, and his wonderful partner, Alana Normile. I pronounced it right? Okay, Alana. Thanks, Dave. And I'm just going to go out and say, to me, you guys are the king and queen of New York real estate. New York City will say king, queen. I'm just going to say it because to me, you helped me out when I needed you guys. And I wouldn't be down in Florida if it wasn't for you, or at least not as quickly as I made it down. So thank you so much. I'm actually going to start because I was going to wait till the end on this, but I'm going to tell a little story about the first time. One of the first times I remember hanging with my boy Danny here. I was, don't worry, don't get too nervous, Danny. Talk about that. And again, we can always,
I'm not nervous.
Yeah, don't worry.
I have stories too.
Well, okay. I guess we can go back and forth all day, but we have to bring Alana in at some point. So let's be considerate. It was high school. We were a year apart, so I don't know if it was, I think your senior year, my junior year, whatever, something like that. I was at a party that I probably didn't belong at. I wasn't the coolest kid, a little bit on the nerdy side. And I was probably at this party, I think, because my friend, and we'll leave names out of this one to be respectful, but one of my boys, who you'll know who it is, he was dating an older girl. So that's probably why we were invited to the party. So somehow only later, 11, 12, 1 in the morning, I find myself not sober. And my friend's gone and his girlfriend's gone, and there's some people hanging out. You're one of them. And we're just like hanging. I'm still like, but I'm having a good time vibing, and then like this ending, and you're like, you're like, hey, you want to come to the diner with us? And I'm like, Danny Nassi just invited me to the diner with him and his boys. Are you kidding me? Whoa! I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And it was just cool. Like I was no one to you, and you were like this football player, cool guy, and you invited me out. We went to the diner. We had a great time, and I don't think you even let me pay the bill. And it was just fun to like, and that's kind of, you don't meet a lot of people like that in life, and whatever. So I thought of that, I think last night, this morning. I just wanted to bring it up, and it's great to still be in touch and be friends with you. So thank you for that.
That's a good memory. I didn't.
So
I didn't recall that memory, but
you didn't remember 7 C's, bro. Well, you remember the cheese fries at 7 C's. We probably had way too many of those, right?
I still think about it.
The chicken fingers are my favorite. So good barbecue sauce too. So anyway, let's start with you please introducing yourself and tell us, your team, the firm, and just what's going on in New York City going into 2025 with real estate.
Lonnie, ladies first.
Okay. Well, Danny and I have been working together for 6 or 7 years now, I would say. I was actually in college at the time, and I was interning for Danny's team. And then I was going to Fordham University, so I was in the city. It was very close by to everything that was going on, so it was very easy to just keep working, and we've just been working together since then.
Yeah. So a while back, I've been in the business for like 20 years. And a while back when we were at Nest Seekers International, I had started a team. We had about 6 or 7 people. And we were looking for interns. And luckily, it came down to 2 people. It came down to Lonnie, and it came down to this other individual that I think went to NYU. And the person who was able to capture Lonnie called me. I was away. I was in Colombia at the time with one of my best friends. And he's like, listen, we got to pick one person or the other. I like this story because this is a true story. And he said, which one do you want to pick? I said, pick the girl. He's like, why? He's like, the guy is, better qualified. The education's like on another level. First of all, she went to Fordham. She graduated with honors. But I said, listen, I'm always going to pick the girl over the guy because women are just better at multitasking. They're better in business. They're more persuasive. Just pick the girl. I want you to pick the girl. So at the time, I had like 7 people, and Lonnie joined the group, and she came in as an intern. And the thing that I was most attracted to in business with her was her professionalism. Like, she was young, but she carried herself like she was like 40 and like had kids. She didn't need any of the hand holding that most people need early on. Didn't frequently ask for help. Went and got her license, took initiative, got her real estate license on her own. Then she started getting involved with transactions, like copied on emails, coming to appointments. And then like very quickly, she just caught on. It was just the shoe fit for her. It was just like, this business isn't for everyone, but it was for her. And you knew immediately. And the other 6, 7 people that were on the team weren't as productive or as ambitious. And one of the mistakes I made in business early on was, I tried to hire people that already had a book of business so I wouldn't have to be in management mode as much. And they weren't producing, and I was giving them a lot of my business, and I was losing a lot of money doing that because I was trying to help other people. And I kind of put the cart before the horse. It was just a learning lesson, a mistake that I made. But long story short, a lot of them fell to the side, but Lonnie stayed there, and she stayed strong and created value. And I think that she learned a lot from me, and I think for sure I learned a lot from her. And I think where I have weaknesses, she has strength, and where she has weaknesses, I have strength. But she's also incredibly articulate. So sometimes if I don't jive with a client, she will, and vice versa. And so she just did an incredible job, and she became my business partner. I got to the point where I was just like, I can't go on without making her or asking her to be my business partner. And I didn't even want a partner at that point because I had been working with someone else for a long time, and I just wanted my own show. But I couldn't even imagine not, working with her at this point. And so together, we've been in business now 6-7 years as a group. We're Brown Harris Stevens. We're based out of Flatiron, 105th Avenue. And that's it. We're doing our best to kick ass and do the best that we can to, produce the results that, are expected from our clients. And also we get a thrill out of doing a good job. And I think we do a really good job, curating specific strategies for every transaction that we're involved in, whether it's a $350,000 deal up to like a $10 million deal.
Well, I'll interrupt you there. That was actually kind of right to my next question. Do you say you specialize in any type of area, sales, rentals? I mean, you just mentioned a huge volume in numbers, right?
Yeah.
You're not that sounds like nothing's too small, nothing's too big, but would you say you specialize in anything as a team?
Lonnie, I want your insight on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's funny because people ask me that all the time, just like friends or acquaintances or family,
Right.
when they're asking about how work is.
They think
and
like it's maybe too small for you or something.
Right, or
right.
what do you specialize in? Like if I'm looking here, maybe you don't work there. But I say we've worked all the way up from Inwood down to Brooklyn and Queens and everywhere in between. And we've done rentals that are a lot smaller, like sub $10,000. And then we've done sales that are, $7-10 million. So we kind of do it all in that sense where, if we can help you, we will, which I think is special.
Go ahead. I want to add to that because people ask us all the time whether we specialize or what we specifically specialize in. And the truth is that we work all over Manhattan, all over Brooklyn, all over Long Island City. Mm-hmm. We also touch the Hamptons as well. But if I was to say that we specialize in anything, I would say we specialize in being the second broker in on sales listings. There's a lot of times where, brokers, they look good, they smell good, but at the end of the day, they're no good.
Yep, I've had that happen to me.
Yeah,
yep.
They tell you what you want to hear, and a lot of them are, thirsty
right.
rather than being hungry. So, they take the business and bank on maybe you reducing your price later on if they're overpricing it. And right out the gate, you're in a bad position if that happens. So I think we specialize, number one, in listing properties because we're mostly sales driven. Number two, being a second broker in. And number three, I would never pigeonhole myself into one neighborhood. You take business as it comes. And anyone who's in business and anyone that's in sales, you don't say no. You take the business and, you do what you can to make it grow. Plant the seed, you water it, and then you do the best that you can do.
Yeah, I would say we like to be realistic with what you're saying about being the second broker in. Like, we just want to be realistic and get the job done, I think is like our priority. And it's the same kind of business, whether we're in Tribeca or Long Island City, or it's a studio, or it's a 4-bedroom. It's the same transaction, and we know how to specialize in marketing it and selling it and negotiating it. It's pretty much the same across the board.
I think we just really treat it like a business. Like when our sellers work with us, they're getting a seller traffic report every Monday. So every Monday afternoon, they know exactly how many people visit the property. They know the feedback, whether it's good or bad. They know where they're getting the most exposure digitally. They can see where we're spending our money to get that exposure. And then they're also getting comp reports throughout the process. So they can also stay on top of the market and, be educated just like us as we're going through the process. So if there ever needs to be a price adjustment, it's not because we're trying to make our job easier. Rather, it's because we're saying, listen, if you want to get this traded and you want to move the property, this is where we have to be priced at because this is precisely what's happening in the market in this moment. So I think we're really good when it comes to that. And like, for example, we just sold a really beautiful townhouse in Chelsea. It used to formerly be owned by Ethan Hawke. And so there was a lot of publicity that came with that initially when our clients bought that subject property. And so what we did with their permission was like, listen, there's a lot of publicity on this property prior. Do you mind if we mention that Ethan Hawke owned it before you did and that you bought it from him? As soon as we got that permission, we got in touch with a few publicists. We pitched the story. We sent it out to, different news outlets. And I think within the first 2 weeks, we had 22 showings. We had 4 offers that went into a best and final, and we ended up selling it for $300,000 over ask. And once we had a contract out, we had another $100,000 over ask come in, and we denied it because we had already been in the process. But that's what I mean. Like, we curate each transaction differently. Every transaction calls for a different strategy, and I think that we've been blessed and we've had enough experience now to do the right thing.
So, and figuring this will be posted in Jan 25 by the time it gets edited, but between now and then, I don't think much is going to change. So where do you see buyer's market, seller's market? Where do you see New York City going into the beginning of 2025?
I think over the last year, it's actually been pretty balanced, honestly. Like, even though interest rates have been kind of a topic of conversation, mortgage rates really depend on the treasury yields, and that hasn't changed that much. If you look at just general listing volume and sales price averages, it's been pretty balanced, and I think it'll stay like that into January in the first quarter at least, which I think is good for everybody because it's stable.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of an uptick also, once we get into the spring, because that's really the sales season. So you're always going to see volume go up. And initially we saw the Feds drop that 0.50 basis points, and then they dropped another 0.25 basis points. And usually when that happens, I have 2 close friends that are mortgage brokers, and I always give them a call. Those are the first people I call because I want to know how many pre-approval letters they're sending out. I want to know what their volume looks like, because then that's a good reflection on whether my business or our business should be busy or not busy. If we feel like it's slow, I want to know why. And so I'll call these guys and also call, some attorneys that we work with, and I ask them how their volume of closings is going, for example. So that's really how we gauge the market also, just to get a sense of what's happening and what we're looking at in the future. So look, sometimes we're really good, sometimes we're really, really bad. So it's really just about.
What do you mean by really bad though?
Well, sometimes you in our business.
I mean, just slow. You mean slow?
Yeah, it's a sales-driven business, right? So you have your peaks and valleys, and our goal is to just stay right in the middle of those peak and valleys. And so that takes filling up your pipe. That takes being consistent, and that takes time and that takes experience. And that's not always the case. Sometimes it gets lean, and other times you're living the fucking life.
So how has 24 been? 20.
I mean, reflecting of what I said, I think it's pretty stable.
Yeah.
24 is stable. And you see 25, as of now, 25 continue to be stable like 24 as of now.
And, or at least getting better. And I think also New York City real estate, probably like other markets, is very cyclical. So there's the fall and the spring seasons are very busy as opposed to summer and winter. But that's also reflective of where New York City residents are going. They're gone in the winter, they're gone in the summer. They're here in the fall and spring. They have things to get done. So I think we're used to those cycles. And it's been going as you would expect, I would think.
And also you have to keep in mind, sometimes you just run into those special properties that are in the right location, that are in the right building, that's the timing is just right. All the stars are aligned, and it could be a crappy market, and that specific property, sells over ask because it's that desirable. So you have those situations also where you just have a really great property to sell, and those are the best ones.
So I know you were the experts on New York City real estate, but any thoughts about Miami, South Florida? I know you used to live down there. I'm sure it being the sixth borough and all that, you definitely followed a little bit. So anything to say about that?
I mean, I don't follow it as much as I do. I don't think enough to speak intelligently about it. There was a point in time where I lived in South Florida just about 15 years ago. So I was at the tail end of, the financial crisis and everything that was happening. So we were focused on I was working more as a principal, focusing on short sales. And then I also got my broker license down there. And so I was selling property down there. And, at that time, I remember it being just overbuilt. And what it reminded me of was Colorado several years before had the same issue when it was overbuilt. And then everyone was going into foreclosures. And then the same thing happened in South Florida when I was there. And the smart people, know how to take advantage of those situations and usually do. And I think we're seeing something similar happening now in South Florida. From what I'm reading, I think it's overbuilt right now. And I think that, and I don't want to say this because I'm not a pessimistic person, but I think you're going to see value dropping there pretty rapidly.
Oh, you're not the first person to say it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and I obviously every other day there's a new condo announcement of a new condo and all that. So I get it. I mean, the area I live in. There's two things going up, starting to go up this year: one rental, one condo. You know? So no, I get it. And do you have any thoughts on Florida at all? I know you guys say you haven't really been down there much.
Yeah, I haven't spent much time down there. I mean, I know there was a huge construction boom in the last like 15 years or so. And so that is going to obviously have consequences now. And like the past few years, the construction challenges that have happened might stop that actually and change what's been going on. But yeah, I mean, I think you're always going to have people from New York going down there. Like that's never going to change.
Yeah.
And what's going on with the construction over here? They reintroduced that abatement, or you guys what? In terms of that abatement, the incentives, What's the latest on that?
That stopped in September when it ended. So there was a lot of rush to get applications in before then. Okay. So we might see the consequences of that in the coming years, but that ended this fall. Yeah.
But there are a lot of value for the buildings that are already grandfathered in that have that tax abatement.
Right. Okay.
A lot of people want a time when they sell their property, because a lot of times like people wait to the tail end of that tax abatement to sell their property, and it's much more difficult to get the value for the property when the abatement's going to expire.
When the monthly bill goes up a lot.
Right. And the number one question when those buyers come in are like, what's the tax going to be? And we can't legally answer that. We can give you a gauge, but then ask you to speak to a tax attorney, for example. But that's also a great question for people who do have a tax abatement that want to trade out of their property. You should at least give the incoming buyer 3 to 4 to 5 years to be able to take advantage of it, to at least give them the value of having it also, and then move yourself into another property.
Don't wait the whole 10 years.
Right? Yeah, because that sucks for the incoming buyer.
Right.
You're just going to be sitting on the property and losing money on it.
So your favorite places or at least maybe favorite newer places, maybe catering more towards the Miami audience, to eat, drink, hang out, new restaurants, hotels, bars, clubs. I mean, what do you
in New York or in Miami?
Well, I usually talk about New York and Miami, but I know both of you haven't really been down there so much.
Let's talk about Miami. I'm still old school.
All right,
I have some traditional spots.
All right, if you have a place in Miami, let's do that first.
Like when I go to Miami, I have a place in Fort Lauderdale, but when I go to Miami, I'm still pretty old school. If I'm hanging out and it's during the day and I'm in South Beach, I definitely like to hit up the Big Pink. That's definitely one of my favorite go-to
South of Fifth
diner, oversized meals. I used to spend a lot of time at Joe's Crab. I don't know if that's still there.
No, I ate there twice last week, and I don't go there a lot, but I was.
What about Prime 112? That was another spot.
3 places that are all still there. So I was a little afraid you were going to say something not there anymore, but you hit three of them.
And then there's an Italian Prime also, isn't there?
There's Prime Italian, Prime 112 across the street.
I haven't tried the Italian Prime yet. I heard.
So it's apparently they copied Lavo's menu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I used to spend a lot of time at. It was so funny. Like one of the first dates I took my wife out on, I took her to the Delano in the backyard. There were all these cool, oversized furniture. It was a cool
that's being redone, or maybe not. That's being kind of redeveloped. A lot of those old properties.
Yeah. So we used to spend time there. I used to spend time at the Standard. I mean, clubbing was big at that time. We were in our 20s, so we were going to Crowbar a lot. And then we also spent a lot of time in downtown Fort Lauderdale. I mean, everywhere in Florida is really beautiful. The food's good. The seafood's good. The people are nice. When I was single and living there, it was a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 girls to every guy. It was literally shooting fucking fish in a barrel. It was so easy to get ass. It was ridiculous. You could fucking be the ugliest piece of shit on earth with the most disgusting outlook on life, and you could get ass. That's how crazy it is over there. Didn't mean to be inappropriate. But as for New York, anywhere. I love Sugarfish. Let's talk about this neighborhood alone. I would go to Sugarfish. I go to Barbonia right here. I love it there. Oh man, there's just so many restaurants we go to. I moved to Park Slope, Brooklyn, so the food there is unbelievable. It actually, we were talking about this earlier, you and I. And one thing I do feel about Brooklyn and moving there 4 years ago after being in Manhattan for 20 years is that it really reminds me of old New York. You have a lot more mama and papa shops and people that are opening up restaurants, and you go in there and the food is just delicious. I love food. My girl loves food. She's so thin, but has the biggest appetite. Literally one of the first times we hung out, we were at a club in South Beach. And I was like, can I give you a ride home? She's like, yeah. I didn't even know her at this point. So I give her a ride home, and we're almost by her apartment, and we're driving by a Denny's. I was like, yo, you want to go to Denny's? Meanwhile, I grew up around like really like fancy girls. Like I couldn't even mention Denny's. You know what I mean? And I don't like to be around those type of girls anyway. So my wife at the time, a girl, not even my girlfriend, she's like, yeah, let's go to Denny's. We go to Denny's. She fucking she orders the biggest plate of waffles with like strawberries and whipped cream. I swear to God, she ate the plate in like less than 5 minutes, like every fucking crumb. And I looked at her in my mind and I was like, that girl's gonna be mine. And that was it. And she's hot too. You know what I mean? And funny and weird and all the things you want in a woman. But I always wanted somebody you could eat with.
I love how we started talking about Seven Seas Diner and now like finishing off at Denny's. It's great.
Man, it's always
Denny's, yeah, really high class establishments. Yeah. No, but that's what's great about it. I think that's why we get along. Me and you have a great time wherever we are. It's about, whether you're at Denny's, whether you're Prime 112, as long as you're with a good crew and having a drink or two.
Lonnie's got some good.
Yes, we want to know your favorite. Miami, New York, whatever. What are your favorite places?
Lonnie's on the market right now.
Okay.
Right. She had a guy for a long time. I'm just going to set this up.
So feel free to use this on your profile if you like.
She had a guy for a very long time, and you have to appreciate. You have to appreciate your girl, man. You know what I mean? So Lonnie's on the market. Lonnie's been.
So Lonnie, where can we find you having a drink if we want to come talk to you and meet you?
I am like we were saying, I really like this neighborhood a lot, but I'm always out in the West Village. I feel like that's where people in their 20s are a lot, like Hudson Street. I probably know every bar on that street, but like Bartuzzi is my favorite. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's like a wine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Lartuzzi's wine bar.
Okay, so it's related to Lart too.
Yeah. Okay. That's my favorite spot. Like Nat's on Bank, like those smaller neighborhood restaurants that you can go in and just like drink wine for like hours is kind of like where I like to be. Like they're still sceney, but they're not like the sceniest places ever, is what I like to do.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely those wine bar situations.
We got to get you down to Miami so we can get your recommendations for down there. Right?
Yeah.
You haven't been there.
No, I've been.
But don't like introduce her to Miami guys. The Miami guys are trash. She needs like a sophisticated like New York guy. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I'll keep it. Yeah, I know enough people in New York, but I think she has to experience Miami so we can get her take on like Miami versus
she's
New York.
Smarter than the two of us combined. So like,
I'm not doubting that.
Like incredibly like sophisticated, smart, special.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Preferably rich. Why not?
Can't hurt, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So now again, the name of the podcast is 212 in the 305. But since you are New Yorkers, tips for people from South Florida, Miami, who are either want to buy a place, rent a place up here, whether it's for the summer or whether it's permanently. Why don't we address that angle of it, since you are the New York experts on real estate?
Why don't we talk about this new salt and pepper beard you got going on over here? I'm feeling it.
I was waiting for this. Yeah,
I'm feeling it. I like it. Doesn't he look like a big cuddly?
I mean, I basically I'm kind of
It's hot. You can go ahead with that one.
Tips for coming up here.
Yeah, like in terms of people from South Florida that either want to rent or buy, again, whether it's for the summer or permanently, like anything you would kind of, like how you would guide them.
Yeah, well, for the summer, you really can't do short-term rentals in New York City unless you're doing Airbnbs, which that's a whole issue.
Right.
So I would say go to the Hamptons in the summer. You could easily come into the city whenever you want.
Okay.
It's quiet in the city in the summer, but go to the Hamptons in the summer. You can rent easily, Airbnb easily. And then coming up here for buying, I mean, I would say if you're in Miami and you're coming up here part-time, I would buy smartly, something where it's like a condo is a lot easier to buy than a co-op. There's a lot less restrictions. You can purchase it a lot quicker. That would be my advice.
I would take it even to the point. Number one, if you're coming to New York, my first advice would be put your wallet in your front pocket.
Okay.
So no bone, picture pocket if you take the train like me. But what I would say is if you're going to buy whenever that time is, like I said, our selling season is usually in the spring. So I would say like February, like Valentine's Day to, I don't know, the end of August.
Yeah.
But if you're going to buy, and I always tell this to people who are serious, I say do it in the wintertime. There's less inventory, there's less foot traffic, and prices are way more negotiable during the winter. And if someone's listed during the winter, it means that they really have to sell during the winter. So that's number one. Number two, I always say also go with a condo. I just think, within 3 to 5 years, you'll gain more appreciation with a condo than you would with a co-op. Some people will disagree with my thoughts on that, but that's a fact to me. That's how I feel about it. I think it's all around a better investment. I agree with Lonnie. There's less restrictions. So if you're not going to use it and you want to be able to rent it out, some condos allow you to do 6 months. Most of them ask for a year minimum, so you can get some passive income or at least break even. It's tough in New York to really
I know.
create passive income out of a condo. Some people do. Like we have some clients that do. We don't do a lot of rentals, but we do have a client from Monaco that owns 2 properties in Lenox Hill and Manhattan, and one of them we rent out furnished, and the other one we rent out unfurnished. It's worth our time, and it's worth their time, and they're great clients, so that's why we do it. So they do well with those, and but that's when to buy. Do it in the wintertime. Do it in the city. And also, if you're looking for new development, for example, don't pay any of the bullshit fees, the transfer taxes, the sponsor fees, the resident manager fees. There's all these fees that these developers, they fucking charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars. No bullshit. And it's just money that they put in their pocket.
When you're buying new construction?
When you're buying new construction.
But you're saying they're negotiable.
What I'm saying is it's fully negotiable.
Okay.
We've never had a client pay for any of those
items.
Wow. So not only do we negotiate the purchase price, we negotiate making sure that they don't pay any of that other bullshit.
Okay.
So we're saving them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh,
people always say I don't want to pay the broker fee, but the truth is you don't not want to pay it because you're getting a lot of value with the right people. They're going to save you the money that you think you're losing giving to a broker. What I mean?
Speaking of that, what about the new law? Do you want to just talk about that a little bit? Isn't there a new law with some?
Yeah, there's 2 things that came up, one with the buyers and one with the renters. You could jump in.
Yeah, in terms of sales, this was part of the National Association of Realtors, which we don't actually have in New York City.
Okay.
But what was happening was there wasn't transparency over the commission.
Yeah.
And so sometimes
for the buyer side.
Yeah, for the buyer side. So sometimes the sellers would take the whole commission. For us, though, it's listed on every listing site, every database, how much each side gets. And then when we go into listing agreements and deal sheets, it's very clearly written out in the terms. This percentage to Brown Harris Stevens, this percentage to the other brokerage. It goes through the attorney. So for everything that we've done, I was actually kind of surprised when I started reading about it because I've never had this experience. Our agreements did change to reflect that it would be very specific, that each side would get something. But that was really what the crux of the issue was with the sales side.
And in reality, sellers have a choice. They can choose not to pay the buyer side. But anyone knows that does business and, does it frequently that in New York, 97% of all the transactions are done by co-broke. So if you're a seller and you say to yourself, you know what, I don't want to pay the buyer's commission. I just want you to bring in the buyer direct. You're alienating yourself from a whole pool of buyers that can come in and, make an offer. And that just makes 0 sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And in terms of the renters, I think now we're about 130, 150 days out. Renters are no longer going to have to pay commission for apartments.
The owners have to pay it?
The owners have to pay commission. That's very similar in South Florida. That's what they do.
Right. Okay.
The thing is, if you're going to do that in New York and they're going to tell you and you're going to read and you can't believe everything you read, they're going to tell you that this is helpful to the renter, but it's not, because what's going to happen is the owners are just going to work it into the rental price.
Raise the rent.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of landlords are already holding apartments off market. The vacancy rates are low, but the actual vacancy rates, I think, are much higher. And I think this is only going to make that even worse, which will also drive rents up because inventory, real inventory, will go way down.
The
There's probably a solution.
Right now,
I mean, it's a lot to pay. I mean, on the other side, I rent, and it would be a lot to be paying 15%. But there has to be some other solution because it's not, economically, it doesn't really make sense for the actual market.
I don't think they should have made any change to it. I'm renting in Park Slope. I got, when I moved there from Manhattan 4 years ago, it was during COVID. I got myself a very advantageous lease. And, I paid the broker's fee, even though it just came to me anyway, because I'm a broker. But, this is part of the game. This is part of living in New York. You want to live in New York? That's how it goes. Otherwise, don't live here. You don't have to. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Many places to live, but no, New York will always be in my heart, and I'm happy you guys are still doing well. And as you know, anyone asks, you're always my first on my list. So
thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And on that note, just end with how people can get in touch with you guys, your team. If you want to put your emails, website, phone number, just please, so we can post that as well.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure.
Our emails.
Danny Nassi. You can just Google Danny Nassi. It'll bring you up to BHS's website of our my bio page, Nassi at bhsusa.com.
Yeah, I'm A Normile at bhsusa.com, but you can Google us and it'll come up.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank Anil because you've been great, and we've been happy to refer our clients over to you for accounting purposes. And I do want to say I think you're warm, and I think you're kind, and I think you're charming, and I hope that you can receive this compliment like I'm throwing you a pass and not make a joke out of it, because you don't come across like authentically real people that want to help others, and they want to do it because they get to, they choose to, they love to. And I think you really get a thrill out of caring about people, providing good service and doing what you say you're going to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It means a lot coming from you, Danny. Thank you.